Hey, what up YouTube? All right, so I'm gonna make this little video here on how I've overcome feelings of overwhelm and real physical overwhelm. Like when you literally have way too much in your calendar and you have teams, different responsibilities, things like that, and then how to deal with that.
First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is no alternative.
While America's infrastructure.
We fought for moral reasons. We stood up for what was right.
This nation will rise up.
Because I know the world is going to keep accelerating. Our lives are going to keep accelerating. There's no real slowing down. Plus, for a lot of us, if we slow down, that means we aren't going to make as much money and we're not going to have the level of impact that we want to have. So here's some tips on overwhelm that I've seen work extremely well for myself. So right now I'm in Arizona, and here's the first thing that I noticed is when I travel is that your routine changes. It gets a little bit different, and that for some people can be quite overwhelming because you're not doing typical meetings, you're not in your typical office, things like that. And we tend to, if we don't have a plan, it can be quite overwhelming and a bit jarring. So here's what I do is I still maintain my 1 to 3 things every day that I got to do that's going to keep me growing. So for myself, I have a bit of personal development that I do every morning. I also then make sure that in terms of business, I'm aware, I scan at least my main to-do list so I know the few things that can move everything forward, as well as then at some point, I also then just check in with the people closest to me in my inner circle, such as my wife, some friends, things like that, so that I can make sure that everything on all fronts is at least moving forward a little bit. So that way when I'm traveling, then I can really enjoy why I'm here. So I was at a business event over the past weekend, so much fun, got to hang out with a lot of people, meet a lot of new people, just see people from all walks of life, a lot of people making really good money, and just seeing really new ways of looking at marketing and business and all that. So that was really fun. But the way that I could enjoy that and fully be present with people is because I have such a good system in place for moving everything forward, even when I'm traveling. So in 1 hour of work, I can then take off the rest of the day to also then be working on my business and meeting new people and developing new relationships. So that's really fun. So that's how I deal with the overwhelm. Is I have a couple key things I do every single day and every morning. What else do I do? I noticed in the past something that was unintended about overwhelm. This is a little pro tip here is I would actually in the past I would sometimes sleep too much. If it's this fascinating thing that happens, like you ever notice when you wake up and you wake up naturally and then you're awake, but then it feels like so comfortable that you just go back to sleep. What I've noticed within myself is that if I allow myself to go back to sleep, I will usually then end up later on in the day, I'll feel a little bit more groggy. And then it will also that will feed into feeling more overwhelmed. And it's actually not the best thing for me to do. So, of course, get decent sleep, but I think sleep is actually a little bit overrated. I know some people are going to fight that, but get a reasonable amount of sleep, but don't oversleep, because that also will lead to just your whole system and everything. It's like you allow yourself to give in to that weakness that can accompany sleep and feeling like you need sleep, instead of just getting up, have a good practice, take care of yourself. Don't just dive right into work, but get up, be clear on what you're here to do, and then take action towards it. So that's key. And then what else? What else have I seen with overwhelm? Here's another pro tip: breathe. It's fascinating. You might notice times throughout the day where you feel overwhelmed or you're not necessarily sure of what to do. And my guess is you're probably holding your breath. And so just standard breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, or out through your nose, whatever, but breathe in through your nose. Because here's another pro tip within the pro tip is if you breathe in just through your mouth, you're activating these panic receptors in your chest. So always breathe through your nose. It's simple stuff, but we tend to lose touch with physical reality. And guess what? Your body is part of physical reality. And so when you get too lost in your mind, you separate from physical reality and you don't take care of yourself, like breathing. And that naturally, taking some good breaths, just steady throughout the day, will keep you grounded. It'll keep you here so you can deal with what's up. A couple other things that really help with overwhelm, specifically self-forgiveness writing. DIP is this phenomenal course. It's DIP Lite, the Destiny I process. It's an ultimate self-development course in terms of being able to understand your mind and your thoughts. So I will use the basic framework. We also talk about it in the Self-Perfected Facebook group. It's like the ultimate self-development Facebook group out there, Self-Perfected. And in that group, we will discuss things like how do you write and journal in a way that's incredibly effective in terms of forgiving and letting go of stuff that's no longer serving you. But then you can also then use writing as a way to get the words out of you and then structure how you want to be and how you want to come through in your life. So writing, I will write about the most practical stuff in my life, such as different business problems I'm working on solving, different things that come up in relationships, different points of like reaction throughout the day. I will just keep my writing as practical as I can. I do that every single day, including when I'm traveling. Another thing I always use every day is TechnoTutor, so I can basically program in how I want things to go, how I want to show up, and then purify and clarify my understanding of different words and concepts. And that's allowed me to have tremendous success within business, but also just really have my life go how I want it to go. It's not always like the most warm and fuzzy, moments every single day nonstop, right? Because we live in a world where we got to correct some things. But what I do notice is that as I can use TechnoTutor, I have the understanding so that I can trust myself enough to get the right things done. And that's incredibly, gives you peace of mind like nothing else I've ever found. And I've done a lot of stuff. You can see my other videos to see that. Then also with Overwhelm, how to combat and overcome overwhelm, it would be having some sort of planner and allocating time for something I call deep work. So every day I have a dedicated time to do the most important tasks, where I'll put my phone in airplane mode and I'll stop everything else. And for about 1 hour, I do the deepest level of work where I put intense focus on the most important tasks that I need to do. It could be anything from like some sort of like bookkeeping, accounting thing, if it's like something I need to do, to creating like marketing newsletter, to creating videos, to having certain conversations with people. But I'll find that one specific thing that I need to do, and I'll focus with a high amount of intensity on that. And as long as I can do that, then by the end of the day, I can reflect on, there's two things at the end of the day I do. I'll then reflect on what I did throughout the day that actually moved everything forward, like moved the needle forward, and I can articulate what it is. That's so key. You can actually articulate what moved everything forward. So if you can't do that, you're definitely not being effective, and we should, connect on that if you want to actually change that. And then another thing that I do at the end of the day is I will map out the deep work for tomorrow. So then I know what I need to do tomorrow morning, and it's obvious. So that way when I wake up, I can breathe and have peace of mind and enjoy myself, because I'm not worried and stressed of like, oh, what am I going to do today? I take out the guesswork. Because at the end of the day, when my brain is still firing and I'm in business mode, I then think of, okay, what's the next logical thing I have to do to keep moving everything forward? And so that's really fun. So that's a surefire way, for sure, to stop the overwhelm. Yeah, man, there's just so much that I've done. I've had to learn just through my own trial and error, as well as I read books like voraciously so that I can take the best of the wisdom from other people. And really it's just like optimizing, like noticing little moments throughout the day where you make decisions. And as you can kind of see, there's like these little decisions you might make to like go get distracted, open up Facebook Messenger, end up on YouTube. Maybe that's how you ended up seeing this video, is because you didn't allow yourself to direct yourself and you ended up on YouTube. But hey, here's the beauty of YouTube, is then you can find videos like this where you can then get course corrected. So it's in those little moments of decision, right, where if you're really honest with yourself, you really know what you got to do. You may not actually, but if that's the case, we should also chat, because you can get yourself to the point where you can be brutally honest and then you know what to do. And as long as you have that, then it's like, okay, in the moment, breathe, correct yourself, right? Forgive yourself in the moment if you're about to do the wrong thing or you did start down the wrong path, and then apply yourself and do the best thing. The best thing. Because when you do the best thing, there's going to be no consequence, because it's the best thing. Right? And then you keep doing that over and over and over until it's habit. It's muscle memory to just do the best thing, default to that. right? And then you keep designing your life around that. And then you measure your productivity based on that. You measure how well you're optimizing based off of that. And then guess what? You become insanely effective. And you can do more in 5 hours in one day than you may have been able to do in a week or a month beforehand. So that's my goal, to help people do that. Now, granted, if your purpose is messed up and you're like just, trying to do self-interest only, then don't optimize towards that. Optimize towards you actually being the best version of yourself, which is the best version of yourself. There's something called Enlightened Self-Interest. I would write that down. Enlightened Self-Interest. And it's that if you were truly the most selfish person and you only cared about yourself, you would realize the common sense that everything is interconnected. And because of that, you would also do your best to make sure that everyone else has at least got their needs met. Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If you're trying to do self-actualization, real self-actualization would make sure that everyone else has at least got their needs met, so then they can also do that too. And if you can't comprehend that, well, watch some more of my videos, let's connect, because it's actually pretty dang obvious when you see it, and then you realize it's a common sense plan, which I mapped out in my other videos of how we can actually set up the world and design systems in the world that everyone can at least have what they need met. Right? And we can do that through capitalism, we can do that through business, providing values, but also what we need to realize is that people got to be educated. They got to understand things, and they can't live in fear. So if you're living in fear, you ain't living. So, like seriously, if you're in fear, that's not real life. But that's so deeply conditioned, right? There's a lot that comes into this. But back to the point of the videos with Overwhelm, really look at for yourself. Here'd be an exercise that I would suggest doing, is notice the times throughout the day of where you feel overwhelmed. Make note of it. And then when you have that, and you have everything that you notice, like you feel overwhelmed over the next couple days, then also write out all the stuff that's like looming in your mind that you have put off. And, it might be like clean my closet. It might be like call that person. Random things. It might be like set up my LLC for my business or find a new accountant. But you got to just make sure that you have that list. And then what you can do once you have that list is you need to just make the next physical action, something you can do in 2 minutes or less. And that might be search Google for a new accountant. It might be type an email to my friend asking what accountant they use. It might be in those 2 minutes, you have to set an hour of time to actually complete the thing. But that is a real test to see how serious you are about either becoming productive and truly becoming effective, or you might be overwhelmed. And if you're really, really overwhelmed with that, we got to connect. There's different groups that I can add you to. We have stuff we do on Discord. We have stuff we do on Facebook. But if you're serious and you really want to break through and actually then imagine this. Imagine how good this would feel. Imagine all the stuff, the open loops in your mind, all the stuff that overwhelms you, that bothers you, that keeps you up at night, that you worry about. Imagine all of that in your mind. Now imagine literally all of those things being resolved. Over the next 2 to 3 weeks, you actually resolve every single one of those things that you can, and they're gone. Imagine how much more free space you have in your mind. Imagine how much more fun it's going to be hanging out with your friends or your partner or your kids. That's literally possible, and it's not that hard. You just probably don't know what to do. And so with that's the kind of stuff that I'm happy to support people to at least see the next steps with. So if you want to reach out, my Facebook is below in the description, whatever links there are. If you're really determined, you can get a hold of me. And that's the kind of thing that I want to see everybody have, that where you can take all the mess in your mind, all the stuff that overwhelms you, that bothers you, that's just looming, that you've repressed and suppressed. And that stuff, point by point, we can resolve. You can take action on it. You can actually get yourself to the next level in all aspects of your life. How much more effective are you going to be? How many more great problems are you going to be able to solve for the world? How better of a world are we going to have? See, that's enlightened self-interest, which I talked about earlier. That is what we're here to do. So with that being said, for those of you who are serious about this and really want to take it on, reach out. I'm happy to support where I can. And then really for yourself, make that list of what are the overwhelming things, what are the actions you need to take, and then get yourself to do them. And that's really the art form, is actually then following through on that agreement with yourself, following through on taking that action. Because as you can do that, right, as you can build that habit of trust in yourself and you do enough, that is amazing. So I suggest live a life that's amazing instead of just a life of default, because you only get one life. Like, really think about that. You only get one life. So what are you gonna do with it?